and we are recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining me, Tiffany. Yes, today we have Tiffany Kable with us, the tribe goddess, who is an intuitive healer, a reader, advisor, and light worker from Botswana, right?
Yes.
Botswana, India. Yeah, she offers spiritual services that including divination, consultation, and ritual work. So thank you for joining us, Stephanie or Taff. Like, you're so lovely. I'm so grateful to have connected with you on Twitter and have this conversation today. Like, welcome.
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me. Really excited about this. So yeah, I don't know what else to say, but yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Like, yeah, especially since that day I saw your tweet about wanting to talk about using talking about cartoons, and I was like, that is actually something that I use for my inner child work, So I
Yeah.
really want to have a conversation with you, like, and you mentioned that you like to use cartoons and animation as inner child work as well. So perfect. Like, I love
Perfect.
this.
It worked out. Yes. I've been an avid cartoon watcher since forever, and just to be able to combine it with spirituality, which is a huge part of my life. It's funny, I should have thought about it. It's just something that I did intuitively, like I would use it. I knew I was using it for inner child work, but I never sat down and it was just kind of part of my routine. And so to have a conversation about it is just really awesome. So I'm looking forward to the things that might come out throughout this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like this will be such a great idea, I would say. And it's not so-called foreign idea because inner child healing has been around forever. Like since I started my journey, there is mention of inner child work, which I don't really resonate with the work, so I like to call it inner child healing.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, yeah, like perhaps you can share more of your point of view on this. Like,
Yes.
yeah, with your routine maybe, but
Oh, yes, yes. So when with inner child healing, well, I think just with animation in general, I've always liked the medium. I've loved watching cartoons since I was little. It's always been something that I have done. In terms of like doing the actual inner child healing, I think what happens is that I will either use something that's more nostalgic, like I will use cartoons that I used to watch when I was a child and rewatch them and to see if there are any messages in there for me. And or I will gravitate towards the cartoons that make me think, because nowadays I think that I think it's been happening for years. It's just that now we're noticing that cartoons are uh, trying to portray real life situations for children that they're going through, and to really make them be aware of their situation and then also find solutions in their own thinking as to how to approach those situations. Um, and then also just for like my imagination, I think it was helpful, especially when you like for spirituality in general, like you have to be able to utilize your imagination and utilize your mind space in a different way. So when you have a medium like animation where you can create and view so many different version, like it's almost like stepping into different realities, and so it helps us to make that relation to real life as well, because a lot of people, I mean, I think just in education in general and the way that we're brought up is to shove our imagination away, and to put them in the back burner, and we're not as creative and yada yada yada. So I think a huge part of that healing is being able to tap into your imagination again, tap into being able to believe and see other realities. So that's
oops.
where I'm at. I think it's just like a good way to explore that side
I
of
think
your
we
mind.
lost Tiffany a little bit. Oops. Is it
Yeah,
me?
so
I'm not sure. which one of us froze for a moment.
Oh, I'm not sure. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It happens. It's Wi-Fi. So yeah. So I think we talked, like you were talking about, like imagination, tapping into your imagination. Yeah.
Yes. So I was just saying that obviously we're taught to move away from it, but cartoons, animation, anime, things like that will bring you closer to making that an active part of your life, even outside of just watching it. So yeah, I think that's like good for spirituality as a whole, but obviously more so for inner child healing, because it's dimmed. Like the more we grow up, it feels like we're taught to dim that side of our lives. So that's my opinion on it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is true. I do even, like, sit down and channel a whole thing about inner child healing for my classes. And inner child is basically a part of us, the innocent part of us that we cannot, like, even though however much we try to suppress it, we try to silence it, it's still there. Is that inner part of us, that innocent part of us that will never go away. So yeah, it's like the more we tap back into it, and then we find that we are actually a lot more powerful than we thought. Like, imagination is not just, like, everyone like make fun of imagination, like that is just daydream, like, you're wasting your time. But I think a lot of us don't realize that imagination is how we create. That's
Yes.
basically where it comes from, is a creativity. And
Yeah.
the power part of us is the most powerful creator.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, look at all the cartoons. They also portray that, like, everyone wants to, like, either they want to get the child because the child is so powerful, they want to get the child to come into their program, and then the child will help them to boost up their programming so much better because they are
Yeah.
powerful creator. So yeah, I really like that part about imagination. And you talk about tapping into different even dimensions, like via cartoons, animations, because yeah, there is a lot of that. Like, just take Peter Pan for example, is believing in fairies. So we actually can tap into that elemental, like earth elemental and elementals, that realm, just by watching that. Like, we get to know more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I really,
100% agree. I 100% agree with that. At least when it comes to, I think that yes, people make fun of imagination a lot, and it really bothers me. It really like gets to me, a lot. But sorry, I was trying to remember that
don't
you were
worry.
saying that belief, because if you look at things like, because I'm trying to think, I had remembered it, I think it's called 12 Forever. There's this animation called 12 Forever, and it actually touches on this idea of like creating a universe, that you can escape into. And I think that a lot of us need something like that. A lot of us needed a lot of that as kids. But what I really appreciate about animation now is that it's also trying to focus on the reparenting part,
True.
because like even with Steven Universe, if you've seen Steven Universe, Steven Universe, most of it is about breaking generational curses, because the main character, Steven goes through these things where he's growing up throughout the show, but he lost his mother at when he was born. And so he's discovering all these things about his mom that he didn't know. So, he's finding out like her shadow side and the good things and the bad things at the same time. So it's helping to challenge him, in terms of like what his view on his mother is. And like, because obviously he grew up being like, oh, she's like, this, like he put her on a pedestal. And growing up, he was like forced to face some of the things that she started, and then also having to amend a lot of her a lot of her past conflicts, and he's the one like breaking those generational curses, but also figuring out with himself, am I responsible for my parents' transgressions? Am I like, do I have to carry that with me? And I think that's really, really, really powerful for a lot of kids who, you know, first and foremost, who don't grow up with like one of their parents, but also trying to figure out like, am do I have to be a complete reflection of my parents? No, you're allowed to be yourself. And I think a lot of adults as well related back to that. But that's just like one example of of a show that I think is directly writing to enhance, if not push, the idea of healing yourself.
Yes, I can. And we are talking about this, it reminds me of you know, a lot of spirituality that talk about this. Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm not sure whether you have watched that.
Yes, of
It
course.
reminds me of, you know, Zuko and how he himself is breaking out of his parents, you know, how to say, the generation curses, generation traumas, that he was brought up that way, that he brought up to hate, you know, the avatars. But you know, he eventually thanked for himself, and I think that is a very powerful message, like not just beneficial for kids but also for adults. Like, you know, when I watched that show, I was like having epiphany every other episode, and I was just like, whoa, this is powerful. Whoa.
No, that's yeah, no, I love Avatar: Last Airbender, but that again, that's also a responsibility thing. At least with Aang, you know, Aang came back and was like, oh my gosh, now everyone is expecting all these things from me, even though technically like I'm a child. Like, how do I navigate through this life and create relationships that are going to be beneficial for me? So I love that show. I think it's a great I think there needs to be a master list of like shows that help you with inner child healing, just because I believe there are so many. And even just like inner teen healing. One that reminds me is like I'm not sure if you remember As Told by Ginger
It's told by Ginger. I
on
think not.
Nickelodeon. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
it was just like it was like these girls in middle school, or this girl in middle school, her name is Ginger, you know, she's like figuring, and it's one of those shows where it's not out of the realm of reality. Like, it's not like oh, they're aliens. It's just like she goes to school, she goes home, she has like real life issues, you know. And so I feel like that for me helped my inner teen child, because you know, like, you have a crush, and like girls at school are mean, and like all these random things that you don't think. But then the character of Ginger is really one that was like, she really knew herself. And I think that was really new to see for me, at least watching, because a lot of the time the main character has to like learn all these lessons and isn't really sure about themselves and goes with the flow. And she had her moments like that, you know, where she succumbed to peer pressure, but for the most part it was really she was really kind of like set in like, this is what these are my values, and this is what's important to me, and I'm gonna do the right thing. And that was just like really, really good to see, just for my inner teen to be like, look, you can overcome these things, and that's like, it's okay, like if there's peer pressure and you do things, but just like stay true to yourself. And I love the lesson. I think it's just like always, at least with animation, it's just like knowing that it's the lessons that you can get from these, that we need to focus on. And people always think animation is like a genre. I hate that. They always think it's a genre, and it's not. It's just the medium in which other genres exist. And so you can have like horror, I don't watch those, but like horror animation, you can have really funny animation. You know, there's so many different types of animation. And I think if people were willing to take what they already watch, you know, cop shows, whatever,
Yeah.
and then explore the options that are there in animation, it will I believe that it would help with inner child healing, because it would give them that that um different perspective visually as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm very glad that you touched on inner teen, because it seems like most of us would think inner child is like we just have to heal that, young us, like 0 to 7 years old, but we forgot, like, after that we still have a whole history of us that actually I think teenage year is where we go through most of the, excuse my language, shits that that we're going through in our life, because that is when we succumb to a lot of peer pressure. We start to do things that is um like, it's just like not very aligned with our, value that we were taught when we were growing up, like after
Yeah.
7, especially because that is when we are having more friends in school, and then we will get to like want to fit in. Like, yeah, I didn't know that I have to fit into society until I'm in school, and people make fun of, us because we're different. Like, but everyone is different. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that is a very important one. As you're mentioning about teens, I don't know why my brain go into totally spies, and I was just like, those 3 girls, they all have their own personalities, and you know boundaries is one of the very strong one, like being put up in all those teen show. And I feel like those, should should be promoted more,
Yeah.
because boundaries is something so important, especially for teens. And also consent, like like for more teenagers to know about consent and boundaries, it will actually create a more healthy individual when they grow up.
Oh yeah. No, boundaries are oh, but I would argue that boundaries are everything. They really are, like emotional, spiritual, even physical. Like having your boundaries is what really helps you to navigate through the world without being what's it called, affected by other people's energy. So I 100% agree with that. I'm trying to think of a show that specifically deals with boundaries, but I cannot. But either way, I mean, I think about, I don't know if this is like shifting topics, but I think about like more of the adult animation that's
Mhm.
really intense. I'm
Okay.
thinking about those because I feel like those could also be beneficial to inner child healing, just because they kind of force you to face a reality. Okay, I'll give you an example. For example, there's F is for Family. And F is for Family is on Netflix, and it's really like a deep show. Like I thought it was gonna be like comedy, and it has some elements of it for the most part, but it is showing like the dysfunction of a family in, I believe, the 70s or the 80s. And they're American, like they're supposed to be like the standard like mother, daughter, brother, sister type of, family. And they're having all these issues, like, but they're very realistic issues, like from poverty to like just like people, like the kids lying and getting into trouble, and like work life, like they're really addressing that. And anger, just like a lot of anger feeling in that show, and you can feel it. But what it did for me personally was just kind of validate the way that I grew up in my family,
Ah,
is that it wasn't this like, oh, everyone is smiling and everyone's happy. Like it was a very angry household. It was very angry, and I wanted to, and so for me it was like, okay, thank you. It's not just like these like sitcom families, everyone's getting along. These
Mm,
other types of families exist as well. Whether
true.
it's good or whether it was good or bad, that's not up to me to decide. But
Mm,
the fact that they're leaving room for those things to exist makes me happy, at least as an adult, to say, okay, like I've been through it, I've seen it all.
mm,
Thank you for showing that in a way that doesn't make me wanna, run away. Because I feel like if it was a show that had
mm.
like I feel like if it was a show with human characters, I
Yes.
wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't watch it. It would make me afraid. It would trigger me. It would make
Mm,
me, it would be too real, if that makes sense. And
yes.
uh, because it's presented to me in an animation style, I now can digest it in the way that I need to digest it. When you're like, I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, that's making sense a lot, and it just kind of like whoa to me. Yeah, and I can see how it helps, like because in animation, most of us do think that it's not reality. Reality is kind of like something that portray reality. We can look at it at more of a fun way. But it and that when it address the deeper issue, it is easier to be absorbed because we feel like we are just watching something like like in a fun way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
really
they
really
do that. I mean, like, if anyone who's watched BoJack Horseman,
Mhm.
that show will gut you. I Paige, Paige,
Yes.
that show gets into, like, especially so I am a recovering addict. I had issues with drug abuse in the past, and alcohol and all these issues, and that I'm still healing to this day. It's a process. But at least for me to be what so with BoJack Horseman, I don't know if you've heard about it, but the main character is a horseman. He's a horseman. He literally has a head of a horse, and all the characters are like animal-like. And I feel like the reason why they're so successful, because it was really well received. It was like a really, I think there's like 6 seasons or something crazy like
Mm.
that. And you can imagine having an animated show go for like many seasons. It has to be really good.
Yeah.
And he like this is like, if you want to talk about self-sabotage, oh my gosh, like you see them go through these waves, and then even the relationships with like even friends start dropping them, like love interest, like things like BoJack Horseman takes your heart and just like rips it in half. Like, it's a really like deep show. But the reason why I think they're able to do that the way that they do is because they've presented these characters that are animal-like, but so human, right? Because they're living in the city, they're like living their like normal lives. But
Mm.
because it's animated, I promise it would never work if this was a reality type show. It would never work, and they would never be able to write the way that they were writing in like the more realistic way, I don't think. So I think it's just like a medium that allows us to be able to face certain realities, and I think that it's really important for us to have those spaces or have those types of things available to us. So I mean, it gutted me, but it taught me a lot about like growth and not blaming yourself for your past. Take responsibility, but also remember that you don't have to be that same person. You don't have to. That's fine.
That is a very, 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 very big message. Wow. And I will have to say, like, if those shows are being, being made with real people, I don't think it will be allowed to air.
No, I don't think so. It'd be too intense.
I think it will be banned everywhere. I was like, nope, we are not watching that. Every other
Yeah,
country, like,
no,
nope, airing this.
it would be too intense. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Wow. But yeah, I personally, I don't think I watch enough anime. I'm not a big animation, but I do watch a lot of, cartoon movies, animation movies, that I will watch a lot of that. And I think those alone, because asking me to sit down for an animation is very, very long. Usually, to me, it's like, sometimes some animation have hundred of episodes,
Yeah.
and it's like yeah, but 2 hours movies that you will see me watching most of them. So most of the animation, I have to say that you mentioned, I didn't watch them, but I am very
Yeah.
interested to check them out after this, like, because of all
Yeah,
those.
no, if you need a comprehensive list, I got you. I can, can make one for you because it's just, I mean, they're so interesting to me. Once because I think a lot of the time people have to dig through all the kind of like kiddie shows and all these other shows that are not as interesting. So don't worry, I've done that for you. I've done it. But have you seen Soul? Did you watch Soul?
I haven't seen that. I know that is a very big one. So I'm just like, it will definitely either trigger me or make me go through a big epiphany. I'll be like, oh, no.
No. Soul, I feel like it will make you feel really good about life. And the fact that even touching on it in a Pixar show, I think for a lot of spiritualists, I think that's why it was like, oh my gosh, because it was just kind of an introduction to this this thing that we all know that we live on after our human body dies, and for that to be shown in like a Disney Pixar show, I mean movie, was just like really, really cool. And it really touches on being in the present, learning to love the present and things like that. So I think you should check it out. I'm not gonna give more. I want you to see it for yourself. But it's a really, really good movie. Since that's what you're into, is the animated movies.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. I mean, like even if you look at like the older movies, like for example, I don't know if you've well, yes, you have The Little Mermaid. Yes,
Yes.
you have. But funny enough, I got a download, so I got a message from Spirit that was like, you need to watch The Little Mermaid. And this was like a couple of months ago, I believe. And I was like, I have not seen The Little Mermaid since I was 8 years old. Like, it was very weird. And I was like, okay, Spirit, I'm just gonna watch it, right? Like, I was like, okay, cool. So I watched it. I was like, wow, like this is a message for me about like my voice being taken away, because I'm a singer. And I was like, wow, like I suppressed that side of myself for so long, because like I went through this like really traumatic thing where I was being told that like I'll never make it in that life, and that I had no talent. Like that was like the feeling behind it. And even though I did, it was just like, obviously that person was trying to get at me and was just they were projecting their own things onto me. And so I was like, wow, I'm getting all these messages for myself to like never give up, and like just like don't give away your power. Like I was writing all this stuff down. I was like, wow. And then like a month or two later, my mentor calls me and she's like, have you seen the news? I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, Meghan Markle is talking about how she feels like she's the Little Mermaid. And I was like, huh? And it's like all these headlines. And I was like, wow, like it wasn't just a message for me, it was like a message for the collective and many other people, right?
Yeah.
And I think all animation, and can you imagine that? I mean, they're doing the live action, but like the impact that it had was because it was animated.
True.
That's just the truth. Lion King, if
Oh my
it's
God.
animated, it's all
I,
animated.
I'm still
Yeah.
so sad for Lion King. Every time when I was little, when I watch it, I will cry.
Oh yeah. No, especially like the part. Oh my gosh, I would. Yeah, it still makes me sad. It still makes me sad, the little Lincoln. But yeah, though there's so many examples. I really want to do like compile a list, like a giant master list. Like if this is what you want to heal, like definitely look into this. Or if this is what you want to focus on, look into this. But like from shows to movies, there's so much out there. There's so much. I encourage everybody, even like the Powerpuff Girls. The Powerpuff
Wow.
Girls, I mean, come on. It's these they're toddlers. They're
Yes.
toddlers, but they go through like so many ranges of emotions and lessons that they have to learn. And they're also so powerful. So powerful. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's a violent, but I mean, it gets the point across, that they're very powerful. And yeah, so that's just like one example of just like the older. I think there's so much out there. There's too much out there, Paige. There's too much.
So
It's
yeah,
awesome. But there's too much.
I know. I know. I was like, as you're talking about animation, I was like flashback on all those that I have watched myself. Like of course I think we have an age gap.
Okay, yeah,
Um
probably.
yeah. So from my kind of like animation are usually like Tom and Jerry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is another one
How
like
old do you think I am? I mean, I
that's
know I look 12.
I've no idea how old you are, but it's
That's
okay.
cool.
You don't have to
Time is
reveal your age.
yeah, time is non-existent. It's fine.
Like we are all, like as so wise is different. Like age is just human age. Nah.
Yeah, yeah. But I watched Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes, you know, like things
Yeah,
like that. I don't know if they had any specific messages. I think they were just for fun.
yeah, just for
Um,
fun. And also a
but
bit on bullying, like standing up to your bullies, something like that.
oh yeah,
So
yeah.
that yeah, those are quite I think quite important back then because back then there are a lot of bullying as in physical bullying as well.
Oh yeah, like what's his name? The rabbit, what's his name? Why am I forgetting his name? Oh, sorry, my cat wants to say hello.
Oh,
Um, yeah, okay, bye. So there's Bugs Bunny, like everybody's trying to bully him, trying to get him, hunt him down, and he's just like, what's up? Like, what's up? Like, I'm just gonna do me. So
yeah.
there's always more to learn. That's what I love, is like obviously spirituality, the base of it is that there's always more to learn. There's always more and more. Like you can't, there's no cap, there's no like, oh,
Mhm.
I've reached enlightenment and now I'm fine. Like there's no such thing. It's just a constant growing. So I think we can always find all these lessons and all these things. Oh my gosh, but have you seen Midnight Gospel yet?
Midnight Gospel, no. I need to watch that. I guess from your face,
I
I need to watch.
I I will check up on you in the next 3 weeks, and I
Okay,
need you to please watch Midnight Gospel. It's on
okay,
Netflix. It is an animated show, but it
mm-hmm.
is structured like a podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, it's structured like a podcast. And in the show, that it's funny because the main character of the show is an actual podcaster, so he actually has his own podcast. But the point of the show, he's interviewing a lot of um people who are like spiritual mentors, people who like focus on spirituality, as there's like people who are like focused on meditation, love, healing, like things like that, and he's interviewing them throughout this show, and it's just it's really good. I don't even know how to explain it to you, but it
Okay.
really it's I don't know if it's specifically like inner child healing per se. It certainly can be, but if you're ever looking for something that like is educational in a way
Mm,
that you did, or like a podcast that's just like focused on stuff like that, it really because they talk about death and life and love and all these things that in such a really profound way. And the interview style is just really cool. And then it obviously visually, there's an episode on magic and on manifestation, which is all about like I went crazy for that one. I was like, oh my gosh, it's part of like, because I don't consider what I do magic, but I know that manifestation can be under the like it is under magic as well.
yes.
But yeah, so it just got me so excited. I was like, oh my gosh. And then they were talking about like the power of words and like words, intentions, like so good, Paige. So good.
I have it.
I promise.
I will check
You'll
it
be
out.
so happy. You'll be so happy you did this. So yeah, I mean, I always encourage people to go back, especially if you had like shows that you really, really liked to watch as a child, like just go back, watch an episode, finish a season, watch a movie that you already watched back then, and because it will bring you back, at least for me as someone who has like is just working through mental illness and things like that. A lot of my memories as a kid have been suppressed, right? Like a lot of them. I mean, they come out when they need healing, but for the most part, I don't remember things the way someone, um, would regularly remember things. So when I watch these shows, when I um, go back to these movies from back then, it puts me back into that space that I was in back then, and then it allows me to uncover a lot of things that I probably haven't healed yet,
Mm,
especially because when you get set into that space,
mm,
when you get set into that space, you also start to remember like, why did I gravitate towards this show specifically? Because like as kids, yes, we like entertainment, but we're also, especially growing up as an intuitive, I everything that I did was intentional. Everything that I gravitated to was extremely intentional. It was like an energy pull, you know. And so a lot of those things explained why I had certain behaviors. So I would tie them back to, okay, I read, that's why I said like the As Told by Ginger, I
mm,
was watching that specifically as a preteen, because it tied back to the things that I could relate to at that specific time. And even when I watch it, like there are things that I can uncover. um and it just really I just like this need for freedom.
mm.
Freedom is like a word that kept coming up, at least with that show. There's even a line that I actually got it. I Okay, can I tell you how much I like cartoons? I have a line from that show tattooed on my back.
Wow.
And yeah, and it says, she spread her arms out wide, breathed in the break of dawn. She just let go of all she held, and then she was gone. What type of show for kids? You know what I mean? Like, she let go of her, release is such a huge part of spirituality, being able to release, let go, so for that to be in a gift, for me to catch that as a child, that's incredible. It's incredible. And then even one of my tattoos here, you probably can't see it properly, but this is Garnet, and she's from Steven Universe. And her is she has the ability to see the future, but also to see different possibilities. So she is able to see different, like, so she'll see like, if you do this, this action will lead to this and this and this and this. So she can see different possibilities, so it overwhelms her almost. And so, a lot of things, a lot of people struggle with this, is worrying about the future, worrying about like, what if this happens, what if that happens, what if whatever. So we forget to be in the present moment, we forget to be here. And that, I really resonated with her character so much that I got it tattooed on my arm. It's really, I mean, for me, tattoos are art, and I am a canvas. I mean, like, come on. Come on.
Wow.
I have Om on my arm. I got it when I was 16 years old. I got this tattoo against my parents' will at 16 years old. Did I know that I would be this person right now? I did not know. It's almost like it was almost like prophecy, like seeing that I would be using meditation on a daily basis. But as a 16-year-old, I was like, oh, I like the idea of it. And then I was like, this is cool. And so I think I went off topic, but that's where
It's
I'm
all
at.
good. Yeah, because we are basically just discussing, and I love how you put things into perspective, like what you learn from different animation, and the quote you share that is so beautiful. I'm just like, basically that is poetry, like that. Four
Yeah,
lines is just a poetry, like
mm,
wow. And it's you can see like how, like, only animation that you can put poetry into it and it makes sense,
yeah,
like not in a real life show. In a real life show
no.
it sounds too corny.
Yeah, it would be like, this is so corny. Like, why am I watching this? For sure. But because it's animated, you can definitely. And then for anyone who has like issues with boys, if you have boy issues, watch As Told by Ginger, because she sees the she learns about how to be treated as well, from a young age. And I think a lot of us get taught that as like relationships, whether they're straight or LGBT. I think from a young age we have to learn about love, and in its truest form. Like, what is love? Is it the romantic love that we're shown on TV? Like, what is the true meaning of love? And that I think is shown in a lot of shows and movies,
Yeah.
animated. A lot of them really touch on the real and true meaning of love, which is like without boundaries. It's always pure energy, and I think that's important for us all to know. Yeah.
I can feel that. I personally, I have a lot of issues with teenage movies that is portraying love as obsessive kind of way. So I'm like, that is not really healthy. Like back then, I loved them. Like, when we
Yeah.
are like and
Twilight.
watching that is love. That
Yeah.
is, yeah. So yeah, personally, I do have quite a bit of problem with that, and I hope that more, like, even animation that works, like, just portray in a healthier way. Like I love when shows and animation that talk about love in, like, not just romantic love, but talk about
Mhm.
how you can have pure love with a friend, with your family, with your sister, and that is just so beautiful. Like
Yeah.
I don't see that enough, like in a lot of big screen, like only in animation, like Frozen is one of my favorite, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not just sister, but also I think Frozen that talks about a lot of shadow work, like Elsa gone through her shadow work, like her shadow is the ice power that she has.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So like friendship, Toy Story, the whole series, It's
Yeah,
so good. Like it
it's
talks about
all about
friendship,
friendship.
loyalty, and it makes you question like what is loyalty?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
And
what does that mean to me? 100%. Yeah.
yeah, I love more of this show to be like, this kind of concept to be put into different shows, different I think animation there will be more of that, like because they are.
There's so much more of that. Like just even thinking about the shows and movies that I like, for example, I don't know if you've seen it. Well, you probably haven't, but it's fine. There's this show called Infinity Train, and the concept is that, well, I don't want to ruin it for people who haven't watched, but it's fine. We're already on season 4. But the concept is that if you need to learn certain lessons, you get like transported into like onto this train with many cars, and you have a number in your hand, and the number goes down the more that you learn. And no one tells you that that's what's happening. You just have to figure it out. So there's even like a season where people thought, where like the kids thought they needed the number to keep going up, so they're they're doing even more bad things to get their number up, but the reality is that they have to get it down so they can return back to their reality. And the last season of that was all about friendship. Like, it was literally about these friends who were like, no, we're friends, but they fought all the time. They were condescending towards each other. They were not being good friends to each other. And that the lesson that they needed to learn was was it was like the number was going down, it was going up, like depending on how they were treating each other. It really tied back to that. So I think animation is doing a really, really good job at figuring that out. Even just like I said, like Steven Universe, it's all about like my friends and my family that I create. Like, this is my chosen family that I've made, and these are my friends. And it really focuses on like, don't mess with my friends. um and I think, yeah, I think that the more mainstream people need to get with it, like we need more mainstream, like for things like Frozen, that promote stuff like that promote like love outside of this unhealthy unhealthy obsession love. I see that a lot all the time. Yeah, no, it's just like, oh my god, like I can't live without you, like type of thing. And it's not realistic, but I mean, as a teenager, oh my gosh, I was like writing on my notebook like Mrs. So and so, like, you're
Yeah.
just like a little crazy. But I think the more exposed that we are to different perspectives of looking at love, the more like I I'm not I personally don't think that I'm going to have kids, because I'm an animal human. Like, I've just accepted that that's what I want for myself. But if I were to ever have kids or be taking care of kids, I would be putting them onto these shows and movies that like really encourage that. I cannot recommend it enough. Yeah.
I I do think that is very important as well. And putting them on animation is also a good thing, but of course, like monitor what they're watching. So
Oh yeah.
like you have a list of what you are recommending, like them watch all of them is amazing. Like, yeah, like I would say limit their time on maybe YouTube where they can find anything, but just
Yeah.
give them a list of things like these are amazing ones. Just watch this,
Yeah.
like
These are for your age group.
yeah.
And this is for your age group. Don't overdo it.
Mm.
Obviously, I think too much screen time, because for me, I had way too much screen time as a kid. I had so much screen time. But I mean, I ended up studying communications and media. So, you could say it was really bad for me, but at the same time, like, it really led me into like the subject that I really, really enjoy. So
Yeah. That's awesome. Really, that's awesome. I love that. Yeah. I do also notice that I because I have cousins and my cousins are way younger than me. So I think my oldest cousin was like 7 years apart than me, like age
Yeah.
gap is like 7 years. So when my younger cousins, they all like growing up and I'm taking care of them because my grandma was taking care of them. So I have to babysit all of them. So I
Yeah.
was like about 15, 16 years old and I'm like watching TV with all those kids. So
Yeah. Yeah.
very educational. Like I know a lot of people make fun of animation, but have you watched like an episode of like Dora the Explorer? And I would just watch that. I was just like, wow, I didn't know this fact. Now I know.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
educational. Like it animation have evolved and changed, like it become an educational source for
Oh yeah.
kids to learn before they even go to school. So I really, really love the idea of it.
Yeah. And we can all benefit. I think we can all, I mean, obviously, we're not gonna, as adults, we're not gonna go and watch CBBS or we're not gonna go and watch these like really really young kids, but they are shows that overlap. They are movies that overlap that can be beneficial for kids and adults
Mm,
together. Like there's a show called Kipo. It's on Netflix as well. Hey man, me and Netflix. Anyway, I always find the animations on Netflix. I mean, I watch them outside of Netflix as well, but like I know the ones that are really good. But there's one called Kipo, and my boss in my like my what's it called, my day
mm,
job was talking about how he watches it with his kids and they all watch it as a family, and it's like this animated show, but it has like all these deep elements, like parent, like dealing with your parents and like expectations and all these lessons again, differences, learning to accept people for their differences, um learning to work together, that type of feeling. And yeah, the fact that he was just like, yeah, I watched this with my kids, I was like, whoa, okay, that's I mean, like, that's awesome, but I was also just like shocked that was a thing. So like families also need to get together and that healing, because I mean, like, can you imagine, like, right now, like his kid is probably going to grow up and be like, oh my gosh, like I learned all these lessons from Kipo and I got to do it while watching it with my parents. And so it becomes like this like warm memory, attached to the situation. So I mean, I think I think it's always good to, if we can find like preliminary measures for kids
mm.
before they have to do the healing later on, you
Yeah.
know, like if we can figure out like how to make sure that they're not having to dig up so much. I mean, some of us just have to go through it, it is what it is. But if there are avenues to help them before they're older, then we might as well just give them the tools.
That is very, very beautiful. Like, yeah. And I really, really encourage for, parents to watch animation with the kids as well because family bonding, like, how can you get better than that? Like, you're watching something your kids enjoy with them and they will, not just keep them as a warm memory. I think that will also help them to be like, my parents accept me and things that I
Yes,
love.
and they're interested in the things I'm interested in. Yeah.
Yeah. There is a
Yeah,
lot
no.
of like acknowledgement that the kid will get that.
Validation, some form of validation, which at least like when I do my inner child healing sessions with my clients, that's something that comes up a lot, is I didn't feel validated, I was not affirmed in who I am, and that's something that was lacking. And even for my own inner child healing, just feeling like I needed to be validated from a specific source, um, That's really, and obviously it comes back to like parents and blah, blah. It always, man, it always comes back to that for some reason. Most of the time, it always comes back to that. But
Like
yeah, yeah,
like for me also because my mom, because I was like only child and only single parent, so my mom had to leave, like go out to do work and so on, so I don't have a lot of time to have bonding. If
yeah,
like sometimes I also like think back, like if there were time that we can do things together, we can watch anime together, that would really really improve the relationship, like it's
yeah.
not like saying that the relationship right now is bad. Like me and my mom, we currently have a lot of shared interests that we watch the similar show and discuss about them.
Yeah.
But imagine how much more stronger the bond is if you're doing it with the child, like when they were young.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
for me, I was just like, I would watch TV on my own and no one would be around. So I feel like that would have definitely drastically changed a lot of things. Um, so I hope that other parents, if there are parents who are watching this, or parents who have been considering it, I'm actually on my channel. I want to start doing cartoon and animation recommendations. So I wanted to do recommendations for, yeah, for these are the good shows for kids, and this is what they'll teach them. There's good show for kids and adults. So I wanted to like give people some options, because I feel like people don't know where to start when it comes to animation. So it's good timing on your part for this. So thanks for the platform.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see your channel, and when you have them, please, link to me so I can add to this video as well.
Yeah, I shall. It's gonna take a little bit of planning, but I will definitely do that.
That will be very powerful, and I'm pretty sure that that will be very beneficial for, you know, not just current mommies, daddies, but also future mommies and daddies to be.
Yes.
Like you can start watching all this show so that you can get an idea what they talk about.
Exactly. And then you know exactly what you want your kids to consume. Yeah, for sure.
I hope it's not too loud. There is thunder and rain going on at my side, and
Oh, okay.
because it's Malaysia, so it just like
Because it's Malaysia, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it's like I also it yeah talk about Malaysia. It reminds me of a lot of animation that I watched when I was younger. That the showcase of we call them kampung life, which is more like the outskirts, like or the not it's more villages, the
Okay.
villages life that it helped me to understand those like lifestyle that I have never have experienced myself, because I personally I'm more of a town and city
Mm.
girl, that if you
Yeah,
ask
yeah.
me something about village, I would have no idea about it. And I'm so glad about animation also that showcase a lot of that. Like,
Mm.
yeah, it
Oh,
brings me
that's
to understand a different perspective, a different life. Like,
yeah,
yeah, that is also a
that's
very
so
beautiful way.
well,
Mm.
that's really nice. I mean, like, I would have never thought about that. Well, you can imagine how many animated shows show Africans, not very many at all. So, so that's very cool that there's that's available to you. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm like, we are on a pause right now. So anything
Yeah.
coming up?
Oh yeah. I mean, like, I feel like I touched on most of my points, I think. I think it would just be like, do you have any more questions for me? Do I have questions for you? I don't know how that works, I guess.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I think when we first started, we touched on, some animation that touch on magic and, messages. We haven't talked about that. Like there is
Oh,
so many animations that touch on magic, that touch on all those messages, spiritual messages.
yeah.
Like we didn't realize until now when we are spiritual and watching the shows again and be like, wait, what? That is
Yeah,
there?
no, I mean, like, I think that's also what was nice, is that like they opened our minds to like the idea of magic, and then also just like get us used to like witches and healers and all these things that like are usually seen as like bad and like black magic-y. I'm trying to think. There's a specific show that literally just like it just got started, and I'm not sure. Um, what is it? Not the Dragon Prince. I'm trying to. There's a show. It's very recent, but it's fine. I'm gonna add. I'm just gonna add it to. I'm gonna add it to my list of shows about magic. But yeah, there's a lot of um. I think it gives us an introduction without people feeling like, because at least for me, right? So in Botswana, there's a lot of like feeling that there's a lot of feeling that magic is all magic is dark magic. There's that feeling, and I think that having them in animated shows makes them like a lot less, like a little bit more accepted than they were before, which is
Mm,
helpful. I mean, either way, like human beings, we go through like it's almost like cycles where like magic comes back stronger, and then it gets shunned, and then it comes back again. Like, it's a constant, at least like from a societal viewpoint. Um, like societies has like pockets where they accept it, and then they stop accepting it, and blah blah blah. But it definitely is, I think, the just being able to see someone like doing spells and doing all the, I personally don't like, I don't I don't do spells, I don't work
mm,
with magic. Like, I'm a spiritualist. I'm not
mm,
really like a magic person, but I do respect people who use magic in the right way. I respect people who call themselves witches and are using it in their own way. Obviously, I'm not a privy to people who are using it for bad things. But I
mm.
mean, people use spirituality for bad things as well. It's just like all about intention. Um, but I like that I can watch TV and feel like, oh my gosh, like I get it. I understand.
And seriously, like, magic and spiritual message is so big on so many animation even before we realized it. That is just something very big for me. It's like, is there, like, we just didn't realize when we were first watching it when we were 6 years old. We think that that is magic, that's very cool, and that's all. But later on we'll be like, oh, hi, like
Yeah,
even
I
little
mean,
you mentioned, like, even like Snow White, like
Peter
Cinderella.
Pan,
Yeah,
Sleeping Beauty,
yeah,
like there's so many magic. Shrek.
so much. We just didn't didn't occur to us that there are real things like that could really be a real thing that you know yeah, we just didn't know.
Right. And I like the idea that these things that we're seeing on the TV screens,
Mm,
I like the idea that they okay, so now that we know that it's real, right? Now we're in a space where we know that it's real, and we're watching these things. So it, in case your imagination is not as strong,
mm,
you now have a visual for what something like that could look like for you in your life. You know, like for example, even like Steven Universe, I keep coming back to Steven Universe, but like the a huge part of how I know how to make a protection bubble for myself comes
Oh,
from a comes from a it's gold, by the way. Mine is gold. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. It's just gold. And then so I have, well, obviously I know I have different methods of protection, but one of my favorite ones is to create the bubble, right?
mm,
And it's shown in the show, Stephen is able to make a bubble, a protection bubble that nothing can come into. So let's say I was like a beginner and I didn't really know how to visualize that and create that. If I was watching Steven Universe and I saw the way that he did that, I was like, oh my gosh, like I can do this for myself, and this is
yes.
what it would look like. Um, and so that's, I think that's really cool.
Wow. Yeah, that is very helpful way. Like, yeah, like if you're not good with imagining or visualizing, which I do have quite a number of students, they always come to me and like, I'm not good with this. Like with animation, you really can show them like how it can be look like.
Yeah,
Just go and watch this, and this is how it looks like. Or you
yeah,
can take it as an example,
yeah. Oh, 100%. Because
Yeah,
it, yeah, it's a different it's not something that is easy to tap into if you're not used to it, or haven't been exposed to it. So I agree.
I really like that. I like that point. Like I think this will be so helpful, like for anyone who's just tapping into spirituality and then be like, I want to, start going further, that they can watch a few of this animation to help them.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, in sometimes, which show was that I was watching? Like there's one called I think called is an anime. It's a Japan one. So I think it's called Akashic Records.
Yeah.
The bastard professor or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, that was I haven't finished watching it, but I find it very intriguing for me, especially when they start showing all the the magic circles and so on. And I find that this oh okay, like I
Yeah.
find it is very, how to say, um just very interesting. Like, it is actually a magic circle and it's a real practice that they get,
Yeah.
that portrayed there. So
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, no, you need that you need examples sometimes, because especially when, because the problem is like, I think that's where a lot of people get blocked as well. Like that's where a lot of people feel like they're not progressing in their spiritual practice, because we don't have the ability to um create in the way that they need to create. It's yeah, it's not, I know it's accessible to everybody, but it's not as easily accessible to everybody. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think going through by animation really help to put into perspective. And yeah, that can be very helpful. So yeah, I know that I think the hour is up and you have somewhere to go, and that's okay. That's all
Yeah.
amazing. Thank you for joining me today and have this talk today, Stephanie. Like I'm very grateful for
Oh, thank
you.
you, Paige. I am so, thank you for being, you're honestly, like, since the day that we connected on Twitter, I was like, wow, I really love this person's energy. Like from the jump, from the beginning, you just kind of showed me exactly who you were. And I appreciate that so much. Especially with like online personalities, you're not really sure like what you're gonna get and blah blah blah. But I felt like with you, it was just like a very strong, like, wow, this person just embodies love. And yeah, that's sorry, I just fangirled a little bit, but like, yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Like, wow, that's great coming. Like, that's great coming from you. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
Nah, don't. All right. Well,
Thank you.
have a good rest of your day, and thank you so much for having me on this. It was really fun.
Of course, it's very fun, and yeah, I'm going to send like upload this, and I will send you the link as well. And if you want to, feel free to share it with anyone.
Yeah.
This is an amazing conversation. I wish that it's longer, but maybe you can schedule another time.
Hey, listen, I'm always open. Yeah, we can continue it. I think we can even expand on it. Like we can go back and like even I can do even more research and learn. I think we can continue this conversation later on for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So looking forward to have you here again. Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Yeah. Good rest of your day. Okay, I will see you soon. Talk to you soon.
All right. See you. All right.